Hello, everyone. How are we doing? I see Cindy's watching. Hi, Cindy. So good to see you. It's been too long since we had a conversation, my friend. Hope you have been well. All right. Good evening to everyone who's in the US, and good morning to anyone who might be watching on this side of the earth, this side of the globe. Welcome to today's live session. Um, Today it's a Q&A session. It's been a while since I did a Q&A. I thought maybe I'll do these quarterly rather than monthly. Let's do them quarterly or so. Gather all your questions, all the questions that seem to be coming into the group, questions that come into, as people join the group. A lot of people drop questions or concerns there. I'm going to be picking up a lot of those. Plus, I'll just reach out to you and see what questions you might have that I may not have already answered. And let's get answering those questions to help you figure out what's going on for you, help you move forward with your goals. All right, so who am I? I'm Karen. For any of you new to the group, I'm Karen. I'm the Plant Power Coach. This is my group, a plant-based weight loss support. For any of you who might be watching the replay on YouTube, if you're not part of the Facebook group, come and join us, please. This is where you can get your questions answered in real time. We've got recipes to share. There's tons of other weight loss videos, interviews, and it's a community that you can bond with as well. So please come and join us if you're watching the replay on YouTube. Also, if you would rather stay on YouTube, please hit subscribe so that you see whenever I launch up a new video. That's usually weekly, so kind of get into the habit of doing this weekly now, so that you can watch it there anytime. And also, if you have friends or family members who might be struggling with weight loss, look, whether they're plant-based or not, a lot of these videos can help them as well, because a lot of it I do talk about mindset, habit change, all the things that relate to weight loss, not just food and plant-based eating. So, if you've got people struggling, please pass on these messages to them as well. Just send them the YouTube link. For any of you watching in the Facebook group, you can always just go to my YouTube channel, The Plant Power Coach, and find the videos there, and you can just send them to your friends and get them to subscribe as well. Alrighty, so today, as I said, we're doing a Q&A. So I'm just going to launch into the questions because I've got quite a few to get through, and hopefully we're not going to go too long today. But the first question, and I'm sorry, I forgot to write names down next to each of these. So if this was your question, I hope that you recognize it, and I hope that I answer this effectively for you. So the first question is, which fruits and vegetables should I avoid while needing to lose 30 pounds? Okay. Simple question, simple answer to that is really nothing. I want you to eat all of them. All of them. Eat a wide variety. Okay, so eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables is actually going to help you develop a really healthy gut microbiome. And having a really healthy gut microbiome environment, spawning lots of different species of healthy gut bacteria, is going to help increase your metabolism, help reduce inflammation, and that's going to help heal your whole body and help you release weight easily without really having to think about it. So you don't need to avoid anything necessarily. I don't really like that word restriction so much, especially if the fruits and vegetables you are eating are whole, right? That's the whole point of a whole food plant-based diet. We're eating these fruits and vegetables whole. You just want to make sure that you're keeping your higher fat foods, so things like avocados, nuts, and seeds, for example, or olives, coconut, that sort of thing. Keep them in really small quantities. Keep them more as a condiment. So have them in sauces or just sprinklings on food rather than like the main food that you're eating. If you're eating a lot of peanut butter on toast, that's very high calorie density, and that may limit your ability to lose weight. Okay, it may. But essentially, weight loss comes down to being in a calorie deficit. Right, so as long as you are burning more energy than you are putting into your body, and not by a huge amount, it doesn't need to be a huge amount more. You just need to be in a slight calorie deficit so that your body doesn't really notice the difference, so that your body doesn't think that you're going into starvation mode, but it has the opportunity to tap into your reserves, your energy reserves being your fat stores, that's when you'll lose the weight. Okay, you don't really need to be restricting anything. I don't want you to restrict anything. Restriction leads to, or too much restriction leads to um, over hunger further down the line, which generally ends in a binge. Over restriction is also not sustainable long term. What you do to lose the weight, you want to be able to keep doing. So that vision of abundance and being able to eat lots of variety and eat to satisfy your body's hunger is what we want. That's a long-term sustainable strategy. Um, you want to make sure that you are filling half your plate, or at least to start with. As you build your plate, think of splitting half of your plate into non-starchy vegetables and fruits, and the other half of your plate being the more starchy vegetables, legumes, and intact whole grains. All right. So that gives you a nice balance. The starch helps you stay fuller for longer because because the starch takes a long time to break down in digestion. So, and it gives you that real drip feed of energy into your bloodstream. No spikes and highs and lows in terms of your blood sugar. It's nice and steady. And the non-starch helps to fill you up, giving you an abundance of vitamins and minerals and lots of water as well as all the fiber. But they're very light in calories, all right? So they're balanced on that plate. If you were eating a full plate of starch, that would be a very relatively calorie heavy plate. But if you break it up into half non-starch, you really significantly are able to reduce the calories on that plate without reducing the volume of that food that you're eating. Okay, so remember to eat when you're hungry and only when you're hungry, and you want to make sure that you stop at satisfied, so there's no more presence of hunger, not full or over full. All right, so then you want to watch out for any emotional eating, any habitual eating, any eating that is to satisfy your brain's desire for dopamine rather than your body's need for hunger. Okay, that's how you do it. It's not about which fruits and vegetables you should be restricting. It's about eating it all and making sure that you're eating only for hunger, you're stopping at satisfied, and that you're having an even balance of starch or carbohydrate rich foods on your plate, and then non-starch foods on your plate as well. So I hope that makes sense. Alrighty, hi Norma, I see you're watching as well. Nice to have you. Okay, second question was, what can I sweeten food and drinks with that aren't a lot of calories? Okay, well, it depends on what it is that you are making, right? I would like to know a little bit more about this, but from memory, I think what you were looking for is something for your tea. And I'm sorry, I cannot remember. I think it might have been Tina. I'm just trying to remember your name. I'm sorry, I can't remember who asked this question. I forgot to write down the names. So it would be really helpful to know exactly what it is that you're wanting to sweeten. But here's the thing. Rather than looking for low calorie usually tends to mean highly processed. So what happens is we tend to want to head towards the highly processed low calorie sweeteners in order to get that hit of sugar without the calories. I am recommending you don't go there because highly processed foods, it doesn't matter that they're low calorie. They still activate your pleasure centers the same way as sugar. And then what happens? Your brain gets a hit of sugar and your body goes into expecting calories. And when your body, your brain, and your gut are always in communication, so that the brain gets the message first because of, you taste it on your taste buds, it sends a message to your brain before that food gets to your belly. And when your belly doesn't receive calories, guess what? Your hunger increases because the body is expecting calories. So it motivates you to want to eat more later. All right, so this is what happens with things like artificial sweeteners. So you are better off just looking for a more natural form of a sweetener that has calories, right? Any sugar, any sweetener is going to be the same amount of calories. It's not like one's higher than the other, okay? If it's pure carbohydrate, then it's 4 calories per gram. It doesn't matter. Carbohydrate is 4 calories per gram, and if it's a sweetener, it's usually it's all carbohydrate. If it's more of a natural carbohydrate and natural sweetener, it's going to have a certain level of, say vitamins and minerals still left in it. Not many of them do. I think date syrup and date paste, I think, are probably the only versions. They're the ones that have the highest amount of vitamins and minerals still in them, all right? So date syrup and date paste can be a really good option to sweet. However, it's often not the sweet taste that most people are actually looking for. Okay, but give it a go. That may be a good alternative for you depending on what you're doing. Another thing is you could just take some whole dates and make a paste from the dates in order to get that sweetness. All right. But here's the thing, like, I seem to remember it was for tea, and I have actually helped a couple of my clients in the past reduce the amount of sugar that they are having in their coffee and tea, using this particular method, because date paste was not cutting it. Basically, it was not the right taste. And so what they did is they actually started to shift out sugar for pure maple syrup instead, which has a very similar taste, but it's not quite as processed as sugar. So if you personally are wanting to reduce the amount without affecting your taste buds, here's what you do. So what most people try and do is they go, oh, I want to get rid of the sugar in my tea. I know I shouldn't be having it, but I just don't like the taste. So what's a low calorie version can I use instead? What's something else that I can use instead? Here's what I recommend if you actually do want to reduce the amount of sugar that you're having in something, or sweetener that you're having in something. You want to reduce that amount that you are consuming very, very slowly. All right, so say you're having a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of sugar in your tea, or so start by switching it out first to 2 teaspoons of maple syrup, for example. And then what you want to do is you want to start purposefully reducing that amount very, very slowly, so that your taste buds don't really notice. So that might look like reducing 2 teaspoons to, say, 1 3/4 teaspoons to start with. All right. Your taste buds don't really notice a very small change, but they do notice a big change. So you want to make that change very, very small. And, it might be ever so slightly less sweet, but it's okay. Your brain's not freaking out. And it's not going to say, whoa, that tastes odd. It's going to be like, oh, that's a little less sweet, but that's still okay. All right. So then you get used to using that slight less amount. And then when you're used to that, then you start reducing it again. But you need to be purposeful, and you need to keep going with this. All right, so one of the first clients that I worked this method through with, she was able to get off sugar in her tea or coffee. I can't remember what it was. It was within a few weeks. And because all she did was just get used to that slightly less sweet flavor, and it was ever so slightly. And she was like, oh, that's okay, that's fine, I can do that. And then she just kept going with it until eventually she really didn't want the taste of sweet in her coffee at all. It was like, oh, I'm only using a tiny little bit, I may as well just not put it in at all. So that really worked for her. So I hope that has given you some ideas. If you want to get a little bit more specific with me with regards to what low calorie, what food items you are wanting to put sweetener in and what you're wanting to change it out for, I can give you some suggestions. Sometimes with things like baking or some other things, things like applesauce can be a really good option, or sometimes using some sweet berries, or I personally like putting things like pineapple into things to really give a hit of sweetness, say in salads. I particularly love pineapple in my smoothies for that real hit of sweetness, and that is more of a natural form. However, it's not necessarily lower calorie, so just make sure it's more of a natural form. Lower calorie just means it's highly processed, right? And you really want to stay away from that, because it's going to have a worsening impact on your hunger cues at a later point. All right, next question. By the way, guys, if you're watching and you have questions yourself, feel free to drop them into the chat. And I'll grab those at the end and I'll answer them. All right, next question was how to get the family on board so that I don't have to make 4 meals. Okay, so my first question is why do you have to make 4 meals? Yes, I know everyone has different taste buds, but if you are making 4 meals, or if you think that you have to make 4 meals, then you're setting that expectation from your family. You are setting that expectation for your family. You are at all times teaching people what to expect from you. Uh, so where are you setting the expectation that it's okay for them to expect a different meal just because they have slightly different taste buds? I mean, no one has exactly the same taste buds. I grew up in a family where I really didn't want to eat meat, but I had to eat meat. Right? Or I could just push it to the side of the plate and pass it over to dad. But I wasn't made a separate meal. Right? If I wanted something different, I had to make it myself. So, and then because I wanted to make myself, I wanted to start experimenting with vegetarian cooking. On the nights that I cooked for the family, there was no meat. Dad didn't like it. He would come home from work and say, "Where's the meat?" And I'd just look at him and say, "There is none tonight, Dad. Deal with it." So you have, if there's an expectation from your family that everyone's going to get something different, you have helped create that problem on your own. All right, so I want you to just watch where you are setting an expectation that is unrealistic. Right? If you don't want to be treated like the slave in the family, then don't act like it. Right? Set the expectation. If you are the cook in the house, set the expectation from what people like. Set a boundary about what's to be expected. All right. But how can you do this even if you want to be, even if everyone else is eating the same thing and you want to eat something different? How can you think about this differently? What I usually say to people is that you want to make sure that you are making your whole food plant-based recipe the base. So everyone can eat plants, right? Everyone can eat vegetables. I don't care if people don't like vegetables. Like if you're the adult in the family and your kids are not eating vegetables, well, they need to be getting the lessons from you. Right? If you want to be a good role model for your kids and have them growing up strong and healthy, then encourage them to eat plants, encourage them to eat vegetables. So what I usually say to people is make your whole food plant-based meal the base and then allow other people to add their bits and pieces to it. This is what I do when I go home and visit my family in New Zealand. It doesn't matter who's there, whether it was mum and dad when mum was still alive or whether my brother and his family were there as well. I would take charge of the cooking and it would be a plant-based meal as the base. And then if anyone else wanted to add their bits and pieces to it, whether it's like dairy or meat or whatever, they can do that. But that's up to them. All right. I would take charge of the meal and that's what everyone was going to have. Unless they wanted to adapt it in their own way. But this way, it means that I'm not making 2 meals, but everyone gets satisfied. I get to eat. I'm not putting myself last. I'm actually putting myself first, and I'm actually putting everyone else's health first as well. I'm setting the standard, and I am also showing the rest of my family how amazing plant-based eating can be. All right. You also mentioned how do you bring them on board when they don't really want to be on board? I think what I might do is a separate session on this because this is a biggie. This is a biggie, and there's lots to sort of take in, and it depends on who's in the family, who you're wanting to encourage to take on board. If there's kids, the age of kids, for example, bigger kids at all ages might be resistant. Bigger kids have their way of eating, their habits already established. Little kids don't like change. No one likes change, really. Look, people don't like change being forced on them. That's the thing. They want to feel like they're in control of their own decisions and they want to make that choice on their own. So, like I said, my family don't get a choice when I cook for them. It's okay. But What I'm not saying is they have to change their whole dietary pattern to whole food plant based. It's like, no, I'm cooking dinner and it's going to be whole food plant based. Don't worry, it's going to be good. It's going to be tasty. It's going to be delicious. You're going to love it. You won't care what it is. You won't care that there's no meat, there's no dairy. You can add it if you want to, but you won't care because it's tasty food. All right. So, and this is how I encourage people to think about, trying to get their family on board too, is you want to make it so freaking compelling that they can't say no. You want to make the food so delicious and open people's minds up to what is possible so that they feel like, so that they want to eat the food. I remember this is what one of my clients, Annie, did as she transitioned her diet. Annie would come to our coaching calls and she'd be just delighted about how her husband and her family were always curious about her food, especially her husband. She'd be cooking away and he'd be like, ooh, what's that you're cooking over there? Oh, that smells good. Oh, that looks good. The beautiful colors and the smells and, her family always wanted to eat what she was making. I think it was a Christmas or a Thanksgiving, something like that one year, where um, she made all this, all the traditional stuff for the rest of the family, and they didn't really want it. They wanted to eat what she was eating, so that was a real win. And then Christmas was, I think it was Christmas, was a fully plant-based Christmas, and so that was a real win because by showing people that it's can be incredibly delicious, and they feel so good afterwards, it really encourages people to want to gravitate towards this way of eating. Yes, people will have the resistance if you talk to them, if you try and push them into doing it. But if you just present them with food, right, they'll eat food. Half the time they don't even know what they're eating. You can also make plant-based meals that are already very familiar to them, so that you are gradually adjusting their taste buds without them even really noticing. So, just things like, think about meals that people already know and love and don't even really think about it as plant-based, and they can be made more whole plant-based. So things like a tomato pasta or a tomato spaghetti, any sort of vegetable soup that might be familiar, things like tomato again, leek and potato, pumpkin. These are very familiar flavors. They're not weird flavors in any sort of a way. Minestrone, even like a classic minestrone with, I just made one last night for my weekly prep this week, with potatoes and pasta and beans and, tomatoes and herbs and beautiful. So, the foods like that are already very familiar to people, and, bringing a meal like that in once or twice a week that everybody can eat. That can be a way to do it. You can also make meals that are kind of familiar but with plant-based alternatives. So one I think of is my cauliflower bolognese. If you search in the group, you'll find the cauliflower bolognese recipe posted somewhere. Just put in cauliflower or bolognese or something like that and into the search function, and you'll see that come up. Now, I have served this recipe to an Italian guy I was on a date with once, okay, and he couldn't believe how good it was. Italian mama who likes to make the pasta and everything's traditional, right? He couldn't believe how good it was, and he also couldn't get over the fact that it actually wasn't meat. It didn't have olive oil in it as well. It was a whole food plant-based, and he also, he said it tasted amazing. So, think foods like that you can serve up to people and they don't even know the difference. Right? Just don't even tell them. All right. And if depending on how old your kids are, particularly if they're younger kids and you want to get them interested in food, get them involved in sort of the creation of the meal. Um, and eventually you can start getting them involved in like the choosing of the meal. What do you want to eat? Which meal did you like last week? Which one would you like me to recreate this week? Get them involved in the process, and that helps them become more attached to the food, more curious about food. That's what I did as a kid. I was always hanging around the kitchen, not because I was always hungry. I mean, I was. I was playing a lot of sports when I was a kid. But I was fascinated by how mum made the meals. And I wanted to get in there and help as soon as possible. And then, of course, when I was sort of teenage years and wanted to start eating differently to everybody else, then it was like, well, can I make the food? Can I actually start making the food? So get them involved at a young age, teach them about it. That's if they're young. All right. So I hope they are some. I hope that was helpful anyway in some way. Without sort of knowing more about your situation, it's really hard to tell. Oh, hi Kathy, just saw you comment. Thanks for joining us. Hi Tracy. Hi Dawn. Um, so yeah, if you wanted to have a chat about that, by all means. Oh yes, and that's right. I remember your next question was, and how do I change my mindset so I can do it? Okay. This is where you got to book an appointment with me and let's chat about it. Changing your mindset, right? You've got to want to do it, right? You've got to be aware when your mind is dragging you off track. You've got to be aware of all the bullshit that goes on in here that is dragging you off track, that's stopping you, that's telling you you can't do it, right? Watch for where you tell yourself you can't. Watch for where you tell yourself you don't want to. And you've got to flip that conversation in here, right? So this is where either book the free one-on-one coaching call with me. We can have a chat about it. Or this is where long-term coaching can help you actually uncover what's going on in here that is stopping you. And I can help you take small steps that are going to lead you in that direction, because I think what might be happening, I don't know, you might be trying to change everything all at once. And that in itself is overwhelming. That in itself creates blocks. And because we are not programmed for change. I'm going to speak about how we're not programmed for change just a little bit later on. So if you want to learn more about that, just keep watching, all right? So you've got to be more committed to your goal than you are to your excuses. This is a big one. You've got to be really committed to achieving the goal, to making that change. You've got to know at a deep level why this is important to you. If you're just sort of floating around on the surface and say, I just want to be healthy, that's not getting deeply connected to your why. There is training in this group on knowing your why, understanding your why, getting deeply connected to your why. You've got to keep asking yourself, why do I want to be healthy? Why is this important to me? Why is it important that I be a good role model to my kids? Why is it important that I am around to see them grow up? Whatever it is, why do I want to be able to fit into my clothes? Right? Why do I want to feel good in my body? If you know why and you're deeply emotionally connected to that reason, you suddenly become more connected to that goal than you will be to your excuses and staying stuck where you are now. You've also got to take it slowly. As I said, we're not programmed for change. You've got to make it easy to succeed and hard to fail. Most of the time, we're making it really easy to fail and hard to succeed. So guess what we end up with? We end up with trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing. All right. So make it easy, super, super easy for you to succeed and hard to fail. For those of you who are watching now in the group, you'll see a picture that Tosh, one of my clients, has just posted up of his meal prep. Okay, this man made it super easy for him to lose 65 pounds in 7 months. He set himself up for success every Sunday by meal prepping his entire week, because he knew he had no time during the week to be cooking. And that was part of the reason why he wasn't changing his diet, why he wasn't changing his habits, because he was trying to do it in a way that was hard. And so we got him into this routine where it was going to be easy for him to succeed. He's got a week's worth of food already prepped. Only took him a few hours. He does one breakfast, one lunch, one dinner. Yep, he eats the same thing the whole week, but he changes it every week. And it doesn't matter. It got him 65 pounds down easily, because he gave himself no room to stuff it up. He made it hard to fail and very easy to succeed. So this is what you've got to do too. And you've also got to understand why you keep sabotaging yourself. Sabotage is connected to some sort of need that you're meeting in the moment that you don't really have better coping skills to meet. So understand what's in here, what you're thinking, what your limiting beliefs are, where you're telling yourself you won't succeed, where you're telling yourself it's going to be hard, where you're telling yourself you're scared of something. You need to understand your triggers. You need to understand how they make you feel and the response that you're taking in order to meet that need in the moment. You need to develop better coping skills, right? Usually better emotional coping skills. So things like people pleasing, needing to put everyone else's needs first, coping with that fear of failure or the fear of success, the fear of change in general. Most people don't want to get uncomfortable, and it takes getting into discomfort in order to create change in our life. All right, so this is actually a very huge topic, and something that is probably better delved into face to face. So we can look at specifically, an example specifically where you have wanted to step into this and you've held yourself back. If we can look at the specific, we can start to understand a pattern and what might be going on for you at the subconscious level. All right. We can understand what's in your brain, how you're thinking, how that's making you feel, and how that's driving you to take action that you don't want to be taking. All right. So if that is you, and I think it was Kathy, I'm sorry, I've forgotten who posted that question. But I'm going to make sure that you watch this video. So if you would like to take up that call and we can get to the bottom of this, because if you want to be able to do this, you do. Everything starts with what's going on in here, right? Unless we change what's going on in here, we don't change our actions, right? So let's get into that mind of yours and figure out what's going on so we can change it. All right. Next question. How long will it take a 60-year-old woman to lose 35 to 40 pounds? Okay. As we age, particularly after the menopause years, weight loss, yes, it can get a little slower. It doesn't mean it can't happen though. But this is mainly due to the fact that your body really doesn't want to let go of body fat, because body fat produces, hormones for us. When your ovaries stop making the hormones, your body fat produces it for you. Now, if you have had naturally high levels of estrogen, say, for example, before you hit menopause, if your levels of estrogen were sitting very high because of your diet, say you were having lots of meat and dairy and eggs and very little fiber, your estrogen levels would have been naturally very high. Okay, so what happens when your body stops, when the ovaries stop making estrogen, is that your body suddenly goes, holy shit, we've got to store all this body fat so that we can keep those estrogen levels high. All right, so that's where that whole middle section, body weight, comes from. If you were whole food plant-based before hitting menopause, your estrogen levels are naturally very low. You are not propping up those levels with diet, and you have sufficient fiber in your diet to be able to clean out any excess on a monthly basis. All right, that's where I'm sitting, and I think that's why I haven't had these emotional up and down swings yet. I know we're only in the beginning phases. I'm just keeping an eye on this, and I also haven't really started to store, body fat around the middle. I haven't really started to notice any changes now. Like I say, I haven't had my cycle since last October, so we're what? That's almost 9 months now. So, and so my estrogen levels have been very, very low. So my body's not rushing to go, oh, we need to store all this body fat in order to keep the estrogen levels high. All right. So, but that doesn't mean that you can't lose it. It just means you need to be very slow. You need to allow the process to be very slow, because any, the body wants to make sure that you are going to survive. It's in survival mode, and it needs that body fat there to be producing those levels of estrogen in your body. So you want to make sure that you are reducing it slowly so the body doesn't freak out. Okay. I usually say to people it's an average of a pound a week over the course of time. However, you might need to allow a little bit more time because of your age. All right, we just don't want to make this a problem. So if you're looking to lose 35 to 40 pounds, it might be about 35 to 40 weeks. It might be longer. It might be a year. It might be a bit longer than that. Okay. But here's the thing, right? If the result was guaranteed, would you continue to work on it? What would you be prepared to do that's different from what you are doing now in order to achieve that result? It does take a shift in lifestyle. It takes a shift in daily habits. It takes a shift in how you see yourself, your identity. So the version of you now and the lifestyle and habits that you have now are perfectly aligned to the results that you have now. All right. So have a think about who that version of you is at, say, 35 to 40 pounds down, and how does her life look different? Not just in the way that she does things differently because she's lost weight, right? I want you to think about how her daily habits are different. How is life going to be different? Like, how are her daily habits different? How does she think about food differently? How does she look at herself differently? How does she think about herself differently? How does she deal with life situations and social situations? And how does she deal with other people in a way that is different to how she's dealing with things now? You know, how confident is she in saying no to food or drink or whatever it is in situations where she doesn't need it, where she might be saying yes right now? So how does she deal with things like cravings differently? So it's not just about the what you eat that's different. It's your whole being, your lifestyle, your daily habits, how you see yourself, how you relate to yourself. All of these things, also your beliefs, you know, what you believe is possible for you. All of these things line up to create the results that you have. So think about what needs to be different in the food that you eat, the daily habits, the identity, the lifestyle, how you're living your life, how you socialize, how you interact with other people. How does that need to be different in order for you to achieve that 35 to 40 pounds down? Right? You don't have to change everything all at once, but where you sort of reverse engineering the goal. Like, how does that version of me act? How does she live her life? And reverse engineer the steps to get there, and just take it one by one to get there. Okay. So yeah, I would give it I'd give it a year at least. Just allow yourself to take it slowly. Don't make it a problem that it's coming up slowly. Every little progress, every little step in the right direction is taking you there. Like, a marathon does not happen in 10 minutes. It starts with the very first step. And those very first steps feel like, oh my God, I haven't got very far yet, right? But you've got to keep taking those very little steps in order to get to the finish line. All right. I hope that helped. Okay. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Melissa. Good to see you guys here. All right. Next question. Okay. I have transitioned from the keto world for weight loss. Oh my God, and my digestion is awful. Help. What's going on? Is this normal? Okay. Yes, this is normal. But welcome to the plant-based world. You are now on the healthy side of weight loss. Unfortunately, as you transition your diet, yeah, your gut's going to be upset for a little while. This is very, very normal. Okay, so our gut is everything we eat feeds a different species of gut bacteria. Right, we've got billions, 39 billion bacteria all over us, all over our external surfaces, and most of them live in our colon, our large colon. These foods help us process and digest our food. We have good bacteria and bad bacteria. So good bacteria, they feed or thrive on plants, fiber from plants. Okay, so when you eat lots of whole plants, your body starts to thrive because you're spawning all of these incredibly healthy species of gut bacteria that are going to help you become healthy and thrive. When you're eating anything but whole plants, so yeah, meat, dairy, eggs, highly processed foods. I know on keto, we get rid of the processed foods, but that high meat, high animal food diet, they that actually spawns species of unhealthy gut bacteria, pathogenic gut bacteria, that create inflammation, create gut damage, lead to all sorts of chronic diseases. So we've got these different species. Now, what you eat depends on what types of species you have in your gut. You're not going to have a high amount of beneficial or healthy bacteria in your gut if you've been eating keto, right? So now that you change your diet over to plant-based eating, you are putting in all this food, and these bacteria are going, what the hell? That's not what we eat. And you don't have the correct bacteria in order to be able to process all that fiber, right? It's going to happen. Don't you worry. It happens over time. That making a sudden shift like that can really upset your gut, right? Because all of that fiber, if you don't have the right bacteria in your gut in order to be able to process all that fiber is going to sit there and ferment, and it's going to cause gut distress, it's going to cause bloating, it's going to cause gas, it's going to be uncomfortable. But what it's doing is actually encouraging those healthy species of bacteria to start to grow. And if you keep doing it, then all of these unhealthy species of bacteria are going to start to die off. But you're going to have that gut upset in the meantime. It's going to take a couple of weeks-ish for your gut to settle down. I usually encourage people to make the change slowly from whatever they've been eating through to plant-based eating, because we need the gut to be able to adjust slowly, or else you are going to get all of this gut upset. But don't worry, it is very, very normal when you make that sudden change. You're also likely to go through a detox period, so allow that too, right? Your body is wanting to detox all of that inflammation. It's been holding on to all these toxins in your fat cells, and it's got nowhere to put them because you're just putting it in faster than your body is able to detox on a daily basis. So it stores those toxins away in your fat cells. So when you shift to an anti-inflammatory diet that is very low toxicity, your body starts to go, whew, now we can detox. Time to get rid of the junk. It's like cleaning out the closet, right? You got a cupboard where you put all your shit when you don't want people to see it. And now all the people have gone, it's like, right, get that closet out here. Let's do a decluttering exercise. So your body does the same thing. It's kind of doing a declutter of all the toxins. So allow that to happen. You might feel sick for a period of time as well. So people can tend to have things like sweats or feel fevery, get headaches. What else? Breakouts. Anything that looks like, toxin is coming out of your body. Sometimes that can look like diarrhea, like getting rid of lots of stuff from the digestive system. Yes, that can happen. So just allow that process to happen. Particularly if you're changing your diet very quickly, just know that it is normal and it's your body going, phew, let's get rid of the junk. All right. A little bit like when the hard rubbish collection comes along and your body it's like you're going, right, let's get all the hard rubbish out, get rid of it. All right. So allow that to happen. It's not a problem. It might just be uncomfortable to start with. That's okay. Drink plenty of water and keep going. All right. How are we going? All right, we've got a few questions to go. Okay, so I've just started and I lost 5 pounds very quickly, but I'm worried about stuffing it all up this weekend. All right, okay, here's the thing. Weekends are no different to any other day, right? How about if we shift how we see the weekends? It's likely that you have come from a pattern of maybe restriction during the week, going too hard, during the week, restricting too much, trying to be too perfect during the week, and then what I call fuck it eating at the weekend. Or the I've been so good, so I deserve a treat at the weekend. Or maybe it's social time, and social time to you means, well, these calories don't count. I can go out and eat what I want with my friends. I go out to eat and I'm just going to splurge, because that's what you do when you go out to eat. You go out to eat and you've got to have dessert, or you've got to have a starter, you've got to eat all the food, you've got to drink all the alcohol, right? I want you to just see the weekend as no different from any other day. Your body doesn't know what day of the week it is. We humans have created this 5-day, 2-day, like weekday, weekend thing. It's just, a figment of our creation. Like, it doesn't really exist. It's just another day. If you start to see your life as just another day, then you can just approach it like you would any other day. You might like to, though, create a weekend routine for yourself that helps you stay on track easily. Creating a routine or a plan ahead of time means that you are planning with your prefrontal cortex, your smart human brain. This is the part of your brain that sets goals for yourself. It wants to help you achieve the goal. It wants to help you plan for the goal. When you plan ahead of time, you're using this part of your brain, because the lower parts of your brain do not give a crap about what's happening in the future. It wants to keep you alive right now. It's only concerned with your safety and your comfort and staying alive right now. All right, doesn't give a crap about the future. So creating a plan ahead of time, do that. Create a plan that takes into account what's happening socially. Take into account create a plan that takes into account your life. But you want to decide very strategically what you will eat, what you won't eat. Set yourself some parameters so that you know that you are going to be, looking after your well-being and sticking with your goals. It doesn't have to be perfect. But what you don't want to do is leave decision making around what you will and won't eat or drink to the moment, to chance. Because what happens is, when you're in the moment, if you don't have a plan, those lower parts of your brain are going to take over. And those lower parts of your brain want familiarity, they want comfort, they want dopamine. All right? Most of the time we're making choices that are against our goals. So if you create a plan ahead of time, all you have to do is stick to your plan. Right? Sounds easy. If you go and watch my training on planning for success, I talk about that in more detail there. All right, so make sure you go to the top of the group or go to guides. I think it's guide 3, where all my weight loss and health videos are saved, and look for planning for success. And last question, guys. Okay, so I keep losing and gaining the same 10 pounds. Help, and why? Okay. All right, first of all, usually when this happens, what I find is most people are not actually tracking any data. So I just want to make sure, put your hand up, are you tracking your data? If you're keeping a record of I want you to keep a record of your food and daily habits, things like water, like sleep, like movement, and track that data against your weight data. We just want to see this as data. We're not going to get dramatic about it. We're not going to get all upset about what the number's doing. We're just not going to make that number mean anything. All right, that number is just a number. And we're just going to track what the number does on the scale versus what our habits have been, right? Now, sometimes we can have a perfect week and this doesn't move, right? I want you to just allow some space and some time for your body to do what it needs to do, what it's going to do in the time that it's got. Don't get too upset if you did all this perfectly and this doesn't move, right? This might move next week, right? So don't be too concerned. But if you're tracking your data against your numbers, then you can start to see a pattern, right? So if you're not tracking your data, start that right now. So here's what this is what I see happening a lot with people when this happens. Either they're not tracking their data, so they have no idea how they lost the 10 pounds. They didn't know what they did to change. And therefore they don't know what they did differently to put the weight back on. Like, or they see their data and they don't see this change and they go, fuck it. Might as well go and eat all the things and this changes again and then the weight comes back on. All right, so we want to see that pattern. But here's another, I've got a few reasons why this happens to a lot of people. Oftentimes people are losing weight in a way that doesn't align with how they want to live the rest of their life. They're doing something that is either highly restrictive or highly unsustainable. Or they might have gone out too hard too soon, made too many changes, too many big changes all at once. And what happens is we can start to make change and we start to feel better in our bodies, right? Feel better in our bodies. We start to see that weight change, but it's been hard. And we take our foot off the pedal slightly. One, we're feeling good. We're no longer feeling in so much pain. Yay, we're 10 pounds down, but this has been a whole lot of hard work. I'm just going to take my foot off the pedal for a moment. And then they let some old habits slip back in. They drift back to some old habits that they're very comfortable with, and that weight comes back on. You know, things like, oh, just a little bit won't hurt. Right, so you just want to make sure that you're not taking your foot off the pedal, that you're not going out too hard too soon and you need to take the foot off the pedal because you need a break. All right, because it's too hard to keep going. All right. Two, subconsciously, a lot of people don't really believe that they can achieve the result, or don't believe that they're really worthy of the result in some way. Our results will always line up with what we believe we can achieve. Right, so if somewhere deep in the bowels of your subconscious somewhere, you are telling yourself that you can't do this or that you don't deserve this, and I don't mean consciously. This is not a conscious thought. This is subconscious thinking, right? If this is what's going on for you, then when you start making progress, you'll do things to sabotage your success, because we always have to prove our subconscious beliefs correct. We always will. So do a check and ask yourself, do you really believe you can do it? Check what you might be really scared of as well. You know, are you telling yourself that you're afraid that you can't do it? Are you afraid of failure? Are you constantly referring back to past failures or mistakes to tell you what you can or you can't achieve in the future? If you say things like, see, I told you I couldn't do it, or maybe, oh, I've never been able to do it before, so what makes me think I can in future? What makes this time any different? That is your subconscious thinking. That's what you're really thinking underneath. We have all these conscious thoughts, these conscious beliefs, and these conscious desires, but it is our primitive brain thinking, it's our primal thinking, our subconscious thinking that is actually creating the results that we get. And if our subconscious is telling us that we can't do this, then you are going to prove yourself correct. So what I want you to do is play with the thought that perhaps that opposite could actually be true. And I want you to go away and find examples of times when you have actually achieved something that you've never been able to achieve in the past, where you probably tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. No matter how many times you tried, you kept failing until you got there, until you eventually did it. I want you to find examples of that in your life. And I want you to bring that to the surface every time you recognize that there's some sort of subconscious block that is telling you that you can't do this because look at all your history. I want you to find that example and bring it to the light. And one example I can tell you about right now is that time when you first learned to walk. Remember, you were a baby and you had no previous history of being able to walk. All you had was examples of other people being able to do it. So you somewhere held a belief that you can do it too. And you got up and you tried and you fell over. And you got up and you tried and you fell over. And you got up and you tried and you fell over. And not once did you turn around and say to yourself, look, I've had all these failures, I can't do it. And you stopped trying. No. You just kept going. You had this belief. You had this awareness in front of you that it can be done. And that process of falling down and getting up and falling down and getting up, falling down and getting up, it actually helped build the necessary strength in your arms and your legs in order for you to be able to walk. So anytime that you might be subconsciously thinking, I can't do it. Look at all these times I've gone up and down and up and down and up and down. I can't do it. There's something wrong with me. Remind yourself of when you were a baby, and remind yourself how the falling down and getting up and falling down and getting up, and the failure and the success, the failure, the trying and the failing, the trying and the failing, how that built the strength, the necessary strength within you to succeed. And I want you to apply that example to this example. Think of this as a new skill that you are learning, new strength that you are developing. And every time you get back up and you do it again, you can tell yourself, look, I can do it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Stop telling yourself you can't. Right? Keep reminding yourself, I can do this. I've got examples of so many people around me who can do it. It shows that it's possible for me too. And start to shift your thinking to that. Your conscious thinking, start overriding that primitive brain thinking that is driving your current model, your current results. All right. Now, our bodies and brains are hardwired for comfort and familiarity. And this can be another reason why we make some progress and then we stop making progress and we go backwards. When we try to lose the weight, we have to make change in our life. We have to make change to our food, to our daily habits, to our lifestyle, to our belief systems, to our identity, how we see ourselves. We have to change how we respond to other people and what they expect of us. We have to change, how we navigate things like social situations. We potentially have to become okay with saying no to things like food and alcohol and peer pressure, or doing things like going out for dinner all the time if that's something that we've been very used to. We have to learn to say no to things when we might have been saying yes. We have to learn to say yes to things when we might have been saying no. We have to learn how to navigate family situations differently. There's a lot of change that happens when we want to achieve a goal. And change is uncomfortable. Change is hard. We are not programmed to change. We are hardwired to not change. We are hardwired for habit, same, familiarity. That all equals comfort. Comfort equals safety. Safety equals I'm going to survive. Change equals hard. Change equals unfamiliar. Unfamiliar equals uncertainty. Uncertainty equals I might die. Right? At the most primitive level, our subconscious, that's what our subconscious is worried about. Okay, so most people are not willing to face that discomfort of change in order to achieve their goal. So you might start making some changes, some small changes, and you might achieve that first 10 pounds down. But in order to continue to lose that weight, you need to keep making more change and staying in that space of discomfort. And you might not be willing to keep getting uncomfortable in order to keep making progress. Right? And this is when it becomes very easy to desire the familiar, to desire the comfortable, to let the old habits creep back in. This is when we say things like, oh, one just won't hurt, or, I've been so good, I deserve a break. It's giving yourself an out. It's like, oh, I just need to feel comfortable in this moment. Everything is so hard. I feel it's not that it's hard, it's that it's uncomfortable. It's not familiar to you. It's not what you're used to. You've spent so many years being comfortable with being that version of you that you're now stepping outside of your comfort zone and creating the new you, the future you, and that's uncomfortable for a moment. And if your goal is going to take you a year, 6 months to a year, for example, that means you've got to be uncomfortable. You got to learn to be okay with being uncomfortable for 6 months to a year, right? So this is a classic form of self-sabotage. It's the fear of change. It's the fear of discomfort. It's the fear of disconnection a lot of the time from your tribe. Like too much change, we start to fear that we won't be loved by our friends or our family anymore. We have to start interacting with people in a different way. Right? So to get past this, you need to be more connected to your goal and your why and the future life that awaits you, the future version of you that awaits you. You need to be more connected to that than the comfortable life that you have now, because really, this is not comfortable. If you're wanting to achieve this goal in some way, you are not comfortable. Right? So you've got to allow the discomfort of change over the discomfort of what you're experiencing in your body and in your health right now. Right? Either way, you're facing discomfort. Choose your discomfort, choose your hard. Right? One way if you choose your discomfort of change, you know that one day that is going to be your new normal. You know that is going to be your new comfort zone. So that one makes it worth it. Okay. Also, another reason why we tend to go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards is that it's not the achieving of the goal that really drives us, that motivates us. It's the working on the goal that drives us. Sorry to break it to you. All right, so if you're constantly, for example, if you're someone who constantly gets to your goal weight and then you put the weight back on, what can happen is you get to the goal and it's exciting for a moment. And then life continues. Nothing else is changing, right? No one's throwing you a celebratory party to say, oh my God, you did it. Well, they might for a moment. Then everyone goes back to their life. Your friends are still totally absorbed in their own lives and their own battles and their own drama, right? Your boss is still an asshole and still speaking to you like, so you're an idiot. They're not going to speak to you differently just because you've achieved your weight loss goal. Nothing else changes, and that excitement of getting to the goal is only there for a moment. So if this happens to you and you end up putting all the weight back on, the likelihood is that you've stopped creating goals for yourself, that you've got nothing more to work on. It's the working on a goal that is the thing that drives us. The thing that creates dopamine in our brain is the achievement of little goals. So when you get to your goal next time, what I want you to do is stop focusing on weight loss, and I want you to start focusing on the next goal in your life, the next phase in your life. I don't want you to stop changing. I don't want you to change your habits, right? You want to make sure that what you did to achieve the goal, you continue doing for life. This is your new life. This is your new daily norm, right? That doesn't change. So don't take your foot off the pedal there. Don't just, suddenly lose focus of what you've been doing. Make this your new lifestyle. This is your new lifestyle. But what you want to do is stop focusing on that as the goal, and you want to switch to creating a new goal in life. What do you want next? Think big. Dream big. Dream big. Do you want to start a business? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to do a TED talk? Right? What do you want to do next? Having a goal to work on in life is what drives us as human beings. We need achievement. We need growth. We need growth in life, constant growth. And for some of us, trying to achieve the weight loss goal has been our thing. We've had it in our mind for so long that, we don't know what to do when we're not focusing on weight. So have something else ready to go. What is it that achieving the weight loss is going to mean to you? And what are you going to do with it? How can you take that to inspire other people? How can you contribute to others in a meaningful way that's going to help you grow as well? What is your next goal after the weight loss? If you can come up with something else to focus on, something else to work on, while making sure that what you did to lose the weight is now your new everyday norm, your new lifestyle, then you're not necessarily going to go up and down that scale because it's that weight loss goal that you've been working on that's the only thing in your life, right? I hope that made sense. That's our last question for the day. But if this is something that you would like to have a chat about to see what's really happening for you in terms of bouncing up and down the scale, let's get on a call. Right? That's the quickest way to sort it out. Sometimes we don't know what's in our head until somebody else teases it out of us. We are so familiar with our own thoughts. We're just believing what's in our own minds. We don't necessarily consider other possibilities in life, and we just believe our own bullshit, basically. So without having any specific data, without having a conversation with you, and I'm sorry, I forget who asked this question, it's really, really hard to pinpoint exactly what might be going on for you and coming up with a strategy that's going to help you move forward, right? Shifting what's between your ears so that you have a new belief system, or you see yourself in a different light, or you think about things differently, all right? So sometimes having that person to be accountable to while you're going through change and discomfort is also the thing that helps you to get to your goal, because you are going to have to get uncomfortable. You're going to have to continually make change for a long period of time. And like I say, most people just can't do that for long term, right? When you're doing it on your own, not only do you have to be super aware of what is in your head, what you're thinking, your limiting beliefs, where you're driving yourself off track, but you also need to be able to keep motivating yourself to get out of your comfort zone and keep making those changes to move forward and achieve that goal, right? We are not hardwired to work this way. This is why most people struggle. This is why a lot of people struggle, right? We're hardwired for comfort and familiarity and the habits and patterns that we have today, right? So this is why it took me 20 years to figure things out. I figured little bits and pieces out, like over time, right? Not only was I relying on strategies that were outdated and incorrect, things like trying to restrict my diet too much, too much deprivation, and I was on the binge restrict cycle. I was doing calorie counting. I did over exercising for a long time as well, right? I just didn't have a good, solid, clear strategy that helped me make change like slowly, one at a time, so that I could build upon that and change my life that right way. I didn't really know what to eat. I didn't really know what to focus on when it came to lifestyle changes as well. And like I say, I used to try and change everything all at once, and it was too much. It was burning out. So it gets a little bit of progress, and then I'd bounce back. I'd be like, oh, I just need some relief here. I was trying to change everything all at once. Plus, I was trying to deal with a lot of bullshit that was going on in here. Like, I wasn't happy in life. I was in a relationship that wasn't working, and I was doing everything for the wrong reasons. I had very limiting beliefs about myself, what I thought I was capable of, the stories that I would tell myself about myself, the terrible stuff that I was saying to myself, like how I used to beat myself up when I look in the mirror. Oh my God, no wonder I was trying to quit when things got hard, because, it was hard. It was very, very hard. But, the old me back then, it needed new me now, a version of me now, to be able to hold my hand and guide me through making smaller changes, to staying on course when I wanted to quit, to, give me realistic expectations so that I didn't think I was failing every couple of days when I wasn't seeing massive changes, for example. Right? So, guys, if you want to get out of feeling stuck too, if you're sick of, you know, driving yourself off track and not sure why you're doing it, self-sabotaging, and if you seriously want to achieve this goal, or at least have made a massive dent in your progress by this year, I'm going to be offering a July promo for you all. Okay, so if you sign up to work with me for 6 months, one-on-one, during the month of July, I'm going to add an extra month on for free. So that's 7 months for the price of 6. So that is going to help you get through to the party season, through that party season, whether that's Thanksgiving, whether that's Christmas, whether that's New Year, whether that's all the parties. It's going to take you from July through to the end of January. All right. So having someone to hold your hand through those periods doesn't mean you're like not allowed to do anything fun. That's not what we do around here. What I'm going to do is help you with strategies that help you stay on track during that period while also allowing some fun in your life. Right? And this is where I talk about having plans ahead of time, having strategies ahead of time that are going to help you stay successful. So this is very powerful. So I really want to help you knock off weight loss from your New Year's resolutions next year. Like, I remember how many years it was sitting on my freaking New Year's resolution pile, and I was so sick of it. So I want to help you with this. I want to help you transition your diet to more of a whole food, plant-based diet. I want to help you adopt healthy habits and help them start to become familiar and comfortable. And let's get in between your ears to see what is going on, where your limiting beliefs are, what your stories you're telling yourself. Release any bullshit pains and hurts and all that sort of stuff from the past so that you can step into being your most powerful and successful version of you. You're going to come out transformed by the end of our time working together, and you're going to have put a massive dent, if not achieved your goal by Christmas, all right, just depending on the size of your goal. So let's get going. Stop sabotaging yourself. Ask the future you for guidance. What is that future version of you nudging you to do right now, right? Think 6-7 months in the future. Where will you be if you say yes to your goals today and getting the support to achieve them, versus where will you be if you say no to your goals today? All right, so what feels most aligned to you? And if you're ready to say yes to committing that future version of you, just type in to the comments below, yes, I'm ready. Stick up your hands. We're just going to jump on a call. There's no commitment necessarily to, once we get on a call, I just want to talk to you. I want to see what you're struggling with. What is it you're actually struggling with? And what are your goals? And if I think I can help you, if I think my program is perfect for you and you are perfect for my program, then I'm going to talk to you about it, and you can make a decision as to whether you think this is for you or not. So like I say, there's no pressure. And you're at least going to walk away from that call with real clarity about what it is that you need to do moving forward to achieve that goal. Okay, so please don't hesitate. I'm not a monster. We will have lots of laughs along the way. And I just want to help you succeed, because I know what it's like to be going round and round in circles and struggling with the same freaking goal for years upon years upon years. So yes, and that's why I decided to become a coach and help people with it, because it's like suddenly all these 20 years of click started to fall into place. It's like, I've got to teach people to do it quicker. You can condense the time if you come and work with someone. Okay, my friends, if you don't have any questions, we're going to round that up now, but I hope that was valuable to you. And please, drop me a note either in the comments or send me a DM and just say, hey, I really want to have a chat. So love you and leave you. I hope that was valuable, and I'll see you all next week. Ciao.